Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today's video is going to be a fun one. Today, I'm looking to have some fun, spice things up a little bit, so I'm bringing a Legacy Shadow Salamence to the Jungle Cup. Now, it goes without saying, this is a terrible idea. While it can output a massive amount of damage, it has a bottom 100 stat product in the cup, and its win rate is absolutely abysmal. But I'm not going to let that stop me. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and let's see if we can get any wins whatsoever with Shadow Salamence. Hopping into the first match, picking up a pretty neutral lead Lantern into Vigoroth. I'm running a pretty standard 2-tank strategy where I do have the Shadow Salamence where I'm going to be trying to save most of my shields for it. And I have two absurdly bulky Pokemon with Lantern and the Clodsire. Now you might ask, Henry, what happens if you see something like a Whiscash or a potential Quagsire on the lead? Well, I would just lose. Again, this is a team that I constructed mainly just to try and get some wins with Shadow Salamence. This is not a team that is recommended for climbing. This is a team for fun. I try and go for a catch onto my Clodsire. Opponent is going to respond with a Unova Stunfisk. And this is a pretty big core breaker. Unova Stunfisk with the ground damage can do very well into the Clodsire and very well into the Lantern. But the good news is my Clodsire is very bulky, able to withstand multiple mud bombs, making it to the Earthquake, and landing that Earthquake is massive. And oh, I make it to the Stone Edge, but my opponent's counting is perfect. And they are not going to let me make that move. I send in the Salamence, hoping they went for the blind mud bomb, but they did not. They go for the discharge, and look at the damage there. Oh my goodness. Salamence took so much damage. In comes the Vigoroth, and I'm going to be shielding up the Salamence. The Vigoroth did save quite a lot of energy, and Vigoroth is going to make another body slam just before the Dragon Tail registers to pick up the KO. So down goes Vigoroth in the back. They've got some spice of their own. They have Galarian Zapdos. I don't quite have an Outrage, but I do have a Lantern, and Lantern does very well here. I'm able to grab the shield. I make it to the Surf, but my opponent CMP ties me. If they have back-to-back moves here, I lose. Close combat knocks me out, but they don't have a second move loaded, and with 1 HP, we're able to take the win. Picking up a pretty okay lead in the next match, leading Lantern into Shadow Dragonite. Honestly, not too upset with seeing this here whatsoever. Shadow Dragonites love to shield everything, so I'm going to bait with the Surf, and I'm able to grab the shield. I'm going to look to bank a little bit of energy, send in the Clodsire just to hopefully absorb some energy, and my opponent throws moves. This is great. Clodsire, again, the whole point of these two lead Pokemon, they don't cover each other's weaknesses very well. They are just here to absorb damage, so I can try and let Shadow Salamence do anything in the back. Unfortunately, if the Dragon Claw lands here, they can probably farm me down. I let it go, and yeah, I'm getting farmed. I'm going to send in the Lantern. My opponent is going to be able to make another Dragon Claw, and I've gotten both their shields. I haven't shielded everything. I am just hoping against hope that Salamence can do something in the back. I fire off the Surf. It's caught onto a Vigoroth, and now it's time. Shadow Salamence has 2 shields. My opponent has 0. I send in the Salamence. Salamence only has nuke charge attack, so it's going to take a while to get to. Vigoroth does make another body slam, so I am forced to double shield. I do leave with some energy. In comes the Dragonite. It is going to get knocked out by a Dragon Tail, and in the back it's a Lantern. Let's see this Outrage. Outrage onto the Lantern, nearly picks up the 1-hit KO. Shadow Salamence farms down, and we take the win. We've got more dragons on the lead in the next match, leading Lantern into Altaria. But this dragon is taking neutral from Electric, so I'm very happy to see it here. I'm just going to play this out with the Lantern. Again, not really looking to shield the Lantern and hoping that Shadow Salamence with 2 shields is going to be able to do something for me. My opponent is well over the Moonblast. I'm just going to let this go. I'm not shielding the Lantern. They bait with the Sky Attack. They try for a catch onto a Vigoroth. In hindsight, I would have been better off probably just going for a Surf and then a switch into the Clodsire. But when they switched, I didn't really see what they switched into at first, so I didn't want to throw my energy. So out of habit, I bank the energy and I send in the Clodsire. Clodsire will need 2 moves to KO here. They're not quite in Stone Edge range, but they are pretty close. They're going to be firing off Body Slam after Body Slam. I'm going to throw one more, go for the Stone Edge, but I lose charge attack priority. I miscounted, so I take extra damage. I don't think a Stone Edge quite KOs here, so in hindsight, I mean, it didn't really impact things too much. They switched back into the Altaria, and I saved that Thunderbolt for this exact reason. Damage on the Altaria. Altaria looking for the farm down and gets the farm down. They're on like 1 HP. I could send in the Clodsire, but I'm worried that they're just going to farm me, so I send in the Salamence. The Dragon Tail goes through, so I just have to shield, and I'm going to be okay. I shield the Moonblast. Is that a debuff? No, the 10% chance Moonblast debuff, and this is so bad. Let's see, can I even survive a body slam here? Oh my goodness. I apparently can't really survive a body slam. That does so much damage. If I wasn't debuffed, I'd be feeling better about the end game. I switch into the Clodsire, and I get to the Stone Edge. Wait, is this possible? I fire off the Stone Edge. That's going to connect. Opponent looking for the farm down. They get the farm down, but I'm going to get this Dragon Tail through. It KOs the double. In comes the Vigoroth, and we're 3-0 in the set. Moving to the next match, hitting Lantern into Whiscash. This game is immediately over. I have no way to win it. I am too weak to Whiscash, so I resign the match. And it's not looking much better in the final game of the set, leading Lantern into Steelix. This one, I am going to play out, though. Because Lantern, at the very least, if I get a bunch of energy later, Surfs will do a lot of damage to the Steelix. My opponent is going to Psychic Fangs with the Steelix and then send in Mantine into the Clodsire safe switch. I go for the Stone Edge. I'm able to grab a shield from the opponent, and this looks surprisingly okay. As long as I'm able to get a bunch of farm on the Lantern, then hopefully I can just throw a bunch of moves at the Steelix. But, of course, that is dependent on my opponent choosing to bring back in the Steelix to the Mantine. I have a lot of energy here. If they Bubble Beam, it's not going to KO, and they do. Clock's up, so I can send in the Lantern. Unfortunately, I'm going to get debuffed here. I'm going to get debuffed. They're going to go for the Bubble Beam. There's nothing I can do about it. And, oh my goodness, they don't send in the Steelix. They send in a Toxicroak instead. Oh, this is absolutely awful. My plan here is just to go for a Thunderbolt, a Double Shield, and a Farm Down. Unfortunately, I'm debuffed, so a Thunderbolt is not going to be able to knock out. My opponent tries to go for the CMP tie, but I'm not going to let that happen. I need this energy. This energy is too important. I get the Farm Down, in comes the Steelix, and the good news is I have a ton of Surfs, but I need to reset the debuff, so I switch out into the Clodsire, and the Earthquake is able to grab the shield. They have energy here. Oh, and they make a catch onto the Mantine. Oh no, they catch the Surf. I will get the farm down and leave with a ton of energy. I go for the Surf. They go for the extra. I think this will allow me to make 2 Surfs. But 2 Surfs are not going to be enough to KO, which means they're going to have a lot of energy, and I'm going to have a Shadow Salamence. Oh, this is not good. I'm going to send in the Shadow Salamence, and my best guess is they were just stun-locked by the fact that a Salamence was on their screen. They don't throw their energy, and somehow we take the win. After somehow managing a miracle 4-1 set with the Shadow Salamence, I was feeling like I could do just about anything. However, I got humbled real fast in the next couple sets, as I think the best I did was like a 1-4 after that. It was not pretty whatsoever. So from here, there's definitely going to be a lot more losses included, because after that one amazing set, it definitely got a lot tougher. Here, I'm leading into another Dragonite, so I grab a shield with the Surf Bait, send in the Clodsire, and then just try and get shields down. And I'm able to do just that. My opponent is going to get a massive farm down. I can send in the Lantern, tank a Dragon Claw, make it to my own Surf, pick up the KO, and then I just have to hope that 2 Shield Shadow Salamence can do well. If it's something like, I don't know, a Whiscash and a Vigoroth, it's probably going to be a win. I send in the Salamence, but it's a Steelix. Look at my health absolutely evaporate, and I lose the game. Moving into the next match, leading Lantern into Skarmory. Unbelievable lead. Opponent save switches into a Decidueye, and this is a matchup I never thought I would ever see. We have a Shadow Salamence staring down Decidueye. Spirit Shackle does massive damage. I'm able to hang on. Thankfully, it does not get the debuff, but unfortunately, they're able to make one final charge attack just before I'm able to get the farm down. I'm very close to a Hydro Pump, but I do not have it. Opponent sends in a Whimsicott, and I just have to hope that for some reason they think it's a Fire Blast, and they do! They shield up the double resisted Outrage, and now I can send in the Clodsire. That's one nice thing about Shadow Salamence, is people aren't going to be too familiar with its counts, because no one should be running this Pokemon. And now I have the Whimsicott where I need it. This team is so weak to Whimsicott, but this is exactly where I need it if I want a chance to win the game. I go for the Stone Edge. I'm going to lose charge attack priority. My opponent has every incentive to shield the Whimsicott at this point, because Whimsicott is the only way they're winning this game. Once the Whimsicott gets KO'd, they have no way to beat the Lantern, so they are going to be shielding everything. They're throwing their energy here, and I think I just have to let it go and try and win the game with Lantern. Lantern, its energy is completely walled, but I'm going to try and make it to the Surf, and I do get there. Is this going to be enough to knock out? It's resisted, but Whimsicott is very frail. It's not. Whimsicott! Oh my goodness. They throw a move, but the Spark goes through. The Spark knocks out the Whimsicott. In comes the Skarmory, and we're able to take the win. Moving to the next match, leading Lantern into Buzzwole. Okay, not a bad lead matchup for the Lantern. Typically, the Buzzwole is going to have to go down a shield if they want to win switch, and that's very okay by me. As if it's a Buzzwole, I would imagine they're going to have some very good anti-flyers in the back, and hopefully my backline should do okay into theirs. They shield, they go for the lunge. I'm going to be able to make it to another Surf. I thought about committing to a Thunderbolt, but then my opponent could just go for another lunge and deny that energy, whereas realistically, I just want to get the Buzzwole as low as I possibly can. The Buzzwole has fractional HP here, but they leave with a lot of energy. Buzzwole is going to go for the lunge. Lunge connects. They send in Steelix, and that is not what I was hoping to see for the Salamence. The good news is I can stay in with the Clodsire, but I'm debuffed. I go for the Earthquake. It looks like Earthquake will be able to two-shot at the very least, even with the debuff. This is not enough for an Earthquake of their own, so I no-shield as it is going to be the Psychic Fangs. Steelix going for yet another Psychic Fangs. I'm not going to be shielding here. I just have to hope the Salamence can do well in the back. They still have a Buzzwole that's on like 1 HP. Hopefully, it can't make another move, but they did leave with a lot of energy. I'm looking to send in the Salamence. What does my opponent have in the back? And it's a Lantern. And this is going to be tough, as these Sparks are just shredding through my HP bar. Oh my goodness. I continue to farm up with the Salamence. Salamence looking to get rid of the Lantern, and it looks like I get KO'd in 3 Sparks, and they get KO'd in 2 Dragon Tails. So this will be a simultaneous KO, and it is. It all comes down to, can Buzzwole make a move? They can! The Buzzwole on 1 HP makes the superpower, knocks out the Clodsire, and we lose a heartbreaking game. Moving to the next match, we see a very familiar lead. Lantern into the Shadow Dragonite, and we know how I like to play this out. Just bait with the Surf, because every single Shadow Dragonite is shielding, and then try and send in the Clodsire and see what my opponent wants to do. So I send in the Clodsire, and I'm farming up energy. Opponent is going to send in the Skarmory. I mean, I did need to bait this out. That's kind of the goal of the Clodsire save switch, was I was thinking I could bait out the Skarmory, and with Skarmory out of the way, that Shadow... I almost said Shadow Dragonite. The Shadow Salamence. The Shadow Salamence. Honestly, the far better Pokemon to run would have been the Shadow Dragonite. But it is going to be the Calm Day Classic here shortly, so it is kind of fun to get to run the Shadow Salamence. I would love for it to get a bait move in the future. It would be actually kind of fun if it got a bait move like Dragon Claw or Fly or something like that. That could make it fun, but at the current moment, it's just, it takes absolute ages to get to any charge move. But the good news is, its Dragon Tails can output a lot of damage. But the bad news is, that's because you are never getting to a charge attack with this thing. I switch back into the Lantern. The Surf is going to grab the shield. And now, in comes the Salamence. 1 Dragon Tail goes through. Is that going to be enough to snipe this Shadow Dragonite? And it is. In the back, it's Vigoroth. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Great lead in the next match. Lantern into Skarmory. Opponent save switches into Shadow Quagsire. I respond with the only thing I can, the Shadow Salamence, and it's time to play the bait game. I decide to call it. They're going Aqua Tail. No, they do not. They go for the Stone Edge. I have no way to win, and I resign the match. Hopping into the final match, we see a pretty cool pick from the opponent. I lead Lantern, they lead Shadow Gliscor. There's a brief moment, apparently, where Shadow Gligar is supposed to be banned. There's a brief moment yesterday, apparently, where they forgot to ban it. So there were people running Gligar out there. But the good news is, they have since fixed it. So the only thing you can run that's a ground flying type is going to be the Gliscor. I am going to shield, and I do get the shield call right. I don't love shielding the Lantern, though, so if they shield back, I think I'm just going to let it go. Because a Shadow Salamence without shields, it just doesn't get anything. I thought my opponent was able to make it to an Earthquake there. They don't end up throwing it. I'm not sure if they overtapped or maybe they lagged. It's unfortunate if it was lag, but I was expecting to get nuked by an Earthquake and just no-shield it, but no move comes through. I'm able to get the Spark farm down. They send in a Whiscash. And this is the only way that I can beat a Whiscash, is if I hard win lead, they bring in a Whiscash, I stay in, and then I can align it onto the Salamence. They're going to get a massive farm, but the good news is Shadow Salamence is a wall to energy from the Whiscash. Surely a Scald will not be able to two-shot. Oh, it does two-shot. Okay, in the back, it is Vigoroth, however, and this should hopefully still be a win, as Clodsire has a completely dominating matchup here. My opponent can fire off Body Slam after Body Slam, but Clodsire just does not care. They already took one Dragon Tail, so I can probably just go for double Stone Edge and Mud Shots. The Stone Edge is going to connect. Opponent realizes they do not have a win con, and they resign the match. All in all, I had a ton of fun getting to run Shadow Salamence. As I mentioned at the start, this is entirely for fun. This is not a serious Pokemon to use if you're looking to gain Elo. In fact, it's more so if you're looking to do the opposite. Shadow Salamence will have a couple games where it can pop off and you see that damage potential, but it is so held back by the fact that all its charge attacks are just absurdly expensive. Outrage, its legacy move, is a very good nuke move. If it had a cheaper move like a Dragon Claw or a Fly or a Breaking Swipe, something like that, then Salamence could have a bit more potential. Probably not in the Open Great League because it's so frail, but in something like the Master League with a cheaper move, it could put in some pretty nice work. But unfortunately, with only nuke charge moves at the moment, Shadow Salamence is mainly relegated to a fast move pressure only Mon. But my goodness, the damage output from this thing is pretty fun. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.